Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Monday's Mindful Merchants. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend. I had a busy weekend. Hopefully, everybody had a busy, profitable weekend reselling or yard selling or any other stuff that you may be doing. I was fortunate enough to hit up not a yard sale, I'm sorry, a swap meet yesterday and found a couple of cool finds. So it's always good
Nice.
to do that. But, appreciate you guys joining us. Of course, you guys know this guy right here,
Sorry about that, guys.
the Lone Star Picker Louie, and of course, our special guest, Dapper Tiger himself, Sam.
What's going on,
Everybody
guys?
say hey to Sam. Thank you for being here, Sam. We appreciate your time. We know.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
No, this is a new project, so you're probably like, okay, what are these two cats up to? And this is our third episode. So
That's awesome, dude. I mean, Eric and I were just reminiscing about, how long we've done it. So I totally remember those like getting started and all that stuff. It's pretty hard.
kind of that honeymoon, sort of, or
dude, so like our very first live stream, anything that could go wrong went wrong. Everybody's internet, like, even though we're in different parts of the country, was going haywire. People's computers weren't working. It was probably the sloppiest live stream you could possibly have. And you know what? It just shows how resilient, how tolerant our audience is, our friends in the reseller community. So
yeah, that's. I'm glad you mentioned that. We'll probably kind of talk about something related on that topic with respect to this. So you are a third guest, and you know what they say about that, right? Third time's a charm. You're gonna bring us forward, and we're gonna share some really cool stuff. Our first guest was Emily Conway, who I know you know.
Great guest.
She was, oh my gosh, we were off to the wheels were spinning, and she was so, gracious, with her sharing. We try to be sensitive with our questions. So like, if something comes up, you're like, okay, let's move on. But no, we're not going to surprise you. We're not going to pull no rugs or nothing. Just all right. No, we're not about that. We just want to, bring something. Let me tell you a little bit about this idea. And you probably, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the last couple. We had Derek and Regina, and that one just really became super fun because I think there's more folks, and we all just, got excited. And Derek's really, he is something else. I think he's bringing a different dash of seasoning to our YouTube community that I think people really realize this is good stuff. This guy is sharp. I mean, Eric, OBX Picker, even mentioned, like, man, that is a knowledge bomb on your strategy as a reseller. Yeah. But I immediately noticed this, and I noticed this a while back, was his mindfulness about what he does is what really brings it. I think heightens his levels of being. Maybe we can kind of talk about stuff like that, as we know. Let me give you a chance. Let's real quick. Let's say hi, to the few people that are here so far. No more than a few. Let me go
Several,
in here.
Even.
And I see Wendy is the first one here. Oops, I forgot. I have to do this from StreamYard, so I beg your pardon, guys. I'm really.
I'll be right back, fellas. I think I have a delivery. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Okay, man. Get that money.
Sam's gonna walk me through this. What I'm on my.
What do you need, man?
I gotta exit banners. That's why I gotta go back up to the comments. It might help. So, one of our first people here was Wendy. We just want to thank you. She said hi, everybody. And Kathy Corner is in the house here. She changed her name recently. You guys might know her from Music 55. So, Small Town Pickers. Hey, howdy. Love them. Buying Space says hello, Louie, Luis, and Sam. I love that. Got a little mushroom in there. That's so cool. And one and only Miss Mercantile. She's an awesome contributor. She shows up to a lot of the lives and what have you.
Yeah, Deb's awesome.
Are you guys familiar with Oso Victoria? She's fairly new here.
No, this is my first time seeing her, so I said hi to her in the chat.
Good. You guys, okay? So, are you already on it, Sam? Sam is the multitasker. He's like probably like just one of the best panelists that can just. I don't know how you can direct your attention. Talking about mindfulness, you're like so balanced when it comes to that.
I appreciate the compliment, man. It's I would say I cultivated it by not paying attention in school and pretending like I was paying attention in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, just like, you know, keeping one ear out while I'm like holding side conversations. My wife will yell at me, especially on Sundays. Like, you know, I got the TV on, my computer up, and my phone tracking all the games, and she's like, what screen are you watching right now? I'm like, all of them. I do fantasy football and all that, but
sometimes I catch Luis. I'm like, Luis, are you there? And he's like, yeah, I gotta check something on my phone real quick. You know, and I'm like, you know, and it's like we live in a society, we're multi-screen, you know.
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes your strength in doing that can also be like a weakness, or do you ever find vice versa?
Well, you know, I have to, I guess, getting into mindfulness part of it. Like, I know myself, you know, and I know that this piece of machinery, as wonderful as it is as a technology, and, you know, even just like leveling the playing field, you know, it gives the possibility for someone younger to be more powerful than a CEO in a room. That's like huge, you know what I mean? Like with this, you know, I could be scarier than a lot of people like would give me credit for, but at the same time, the people who build and design it want me to be on it all the time. Yeah. So, you know,
nice. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. So there is like an addictive quality to that. Forget about like just the mental aspect of it, just from your eyes staring at a blue screen all the time.
Yeah.
It jacks up your eyes, messes up your sleep, and then just not having sleep trickles into the rest of my life. So I've had to kind of, you know, be cognizant. I mean, I'll take trips. Like when I go on vacation, I used to try and go to places where, you know, internet wasn't that easily accessible. You know, I could get it, like I wasn't going to be in trouble or anything like that, but it was harder for me to like maybe stream something on my phone, or maybe all the capability my phone has is just shooting a text. Yeah. So, and there's something, man, if you guys have never done it before, where like you can't access your phone, it's liberating, you know?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So like, oh my gosh, I want to run off of like 7 different tangents right now. My mind's like, you brought up some good stuff, because this is all related to why Luis and I wanted to bring this platform. Is that, Sam, so, you know, one of them is why are we here, you know, in this world of YouTube, and which is another screen within screens, you know. And it's like, gosh, it's like I could think of like 10 movies that are like, isn't this like 20 or 30 years ago? You go, that's not possible. You know, it's like all of a sudden we're living in these like, my metaphor lately is Max Headroom. Do you remember that analogy? You know, you remember him from the 90s? Max Headroom was like, or it was actually late 80s, and then he's still kind of crazy, you know. And it's like, it's happening. And so like with respect to what you said, Emily Conway brought it up, and she humbled me. Like after her show, she's like, Louie, you know, Luis, guess what I'm doing now? Every Monday is Screenless Monday. She's taking a day of a break. And I thought, wow, how empowering can that be? So like, kind of like you said, you're going to this, you know, you're going out of town, whatever, whether it's a hotel or you're going to, let's say you're having dinner with some folks or family. Do you want to be on that screen constantly? Like, hey, you know, you're talking to your cousin. Oh, hold on a sec, you know. I mean, granted, emergencies and special situations, you know, we love that technology. It can help us and save us.
I mean, you just think of all the moments and opportunities you miss by not looking up sometimes, you know?
It's a great mindful point. Yeah.
That you can just never get back. I think I'm also just cognizant of screen time now with Ezra, because like, you know, Christina and I both like decided really early on, you know, we want him to have screen time. It's unrealistic, especially in today's society, to like not even see a screen. Like, I don't want to treat it like Voldemort, you know, we don't talk about it, we avoid it at all costs. That's not realistic. It's more of like, you know, how do we give him a little bit, but not let it be a digital babysitter or like dictate my life, because, you know, I definitely have some kids in my distant relatives, families who, you know, that iPad does not come out, there is hell to pay. World War 4, 5, and 6 are coming today. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they have like the zombie mentality, like they're just glued to the screen. So with respect to like, and by the way, for those in the panel that I'm not panel in the live, they don't know. And Sam, maybe just in a nutshell, because normally we don't really go too much into your background or your life or anything, but like, you're considered a reseller, right? Do you consider yourself?
I consider myself a part-time reseller.
Okay, cool. And so he mentioned his child. He's got a son. By the way, I wanted to congratulate you because you did put this out on social, the social platforms like Instagram, and I understand you recently. We have reason to congratulate you. Gotten married, is that right?
Yeah. So Christina and I
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, man. We were gonna get hitched, and then COVID and all that stuff. So we had to, but I'm glad we made it happen.
Wonderful. I mean, you're still a family unit, no matter what, whether it's legal in terms of paperwork or not. So back to your child, like, I love that you said something that really like speaks to me, because Luis and I thought, like, Sam's coming on. I really want to honor him. I told Luis, I really want to honor you, and because you're gracious enough to give us a little time here today, talk, and just you're a dad like us. And so when I heard you say, I want to do, I'm not going to avoid showing Ezra the screens and stuff like that, but at least you can do it on your time, both you and your wife's time, and create an awareness in a fashion that you want to. What do you see for him? Like, how do you see, like you said, you don't want him to be like, we won't compare who it was, but like other kids that kind of glue.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So like even my wife's kids' sisters, right? They're right in the phone. They're even if they don't have the phone, the AirPods are in there in a different universe. Yeah. Typical tweeny teenager, just checking out from reality. That's cool. But if you start looking at the news on this stuff, depression in children are on the rise, anxiety's on the rise, mental health is worse than it ever was.
Yep.
And my thought process is, like, there have always been things that made us feel insecure, whether it was the supermodels or the six-pack ab athlete on the television or in the magazine ads or the music videos, or if it's some sort of celebrity icon, who looks a certain way. And, I just think that no matter, it's just the technology, and there are always going to be things that challenge our insecurities. So why not, in this time where he's fresh, he's a blank slate, help him learn how to be more confident, reinforce and validate the things that I want to kind of, grow in him, and then, not really put as much attention to the stuff that is, not as desirable. Because, and like reselling and the stay-at-home business stuff, like, gives me that ability versus like handing that over to maybe a relative who isn't on the same page, Like we just had our godmother was literally talking to Ezra last night, and he was just like, you're never gonna be wrong, baby, you're always gonna be right, and this, and I'm like, that's not real at all. Like, part of me knows that she's joking, but also part of me knows that there's this tendency to want to like helicopter and overshield. And in my mind, technology, times, and even the things that make us feel insecure will change, but character won't. So if I, instill a strong character in him, and just make him unshakable, it doesn't matter. That's my thought process. It's a theory. I'll let you know in 20 years.
I kind of want to piggyback on that, but I want to, what I forgot is I didn't get to continue saying hi. I mean, some of these I'm going to repeat, like Rebel. Is it pronounced junk? I was going to say junque, like in a French way or something. Look who's here, Mike Newsom. Thank you, guys. Do you guys know this guy? I love that guy.
Hey.
And we got, buying space. All right. Also, Victoria, we just said hi to. Oh, Marrakech, I still have not figured out your name. You probably told me. Came in live one night. He was awesome. Just good listeners. They asked great questions.
Yep.
Joe Dill's here. I think did we catch up on your end there? Does it show you guys?
Yeah. You guys are caught up?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to, how should I say this? I don't know. So speaking about something you said, and before I go any further, I want to say this, and I want Luis kind of, because you're already bringing it up, Sam, is, about being a parent. I think, let me just say this, and Luis, jump in with you had a question you kind of you were telling me you were thinking about, addressing Sam, and it's a gentle one.
Yeah,
we won't beat you up too much, Sam.
Yeah,
it's all good, man.
I'm a father.
No.
I have two young kids too. I have an 8-year-old and I have a 6-year-old.
Awesome, dude.
So I can relate on how you are, being home with your son and doing the reselling and stuff. So with me, it works on a schedule. It's I know I've told Louie this before. It's every day. It's like get up at 5, do what I need to do, pack, print labels, get them up, get them ready for their online schooling. So once the 8 o'clock hits, I become the principal, the teacher, the dad.
Yeah, man.
The reseller. I mean, you get all those different hats you got to wear.
Yeah.
And it does get a little bit, sometimes a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it's got to get done.
Yeah.
There's no sense of just, crossing my arms and saying, okay, I'm not dealing with it. No, so my question to you is, how does it for you to be a dad? And, I know you do a part-time reseller. How do you balance that of being the father and being a, part-time reseller and then trying to spend time with your wife as well at the same time?
Wow.
Man, I would say like flexibility, is the best way. So there's a saying by Lao Tzu, right? A stiff tree breaks in the wind, where a supple sapling will just bend, right? So your ability to be flexible. I mean, as much as I don't want a baby to dictate my time, and as much as I try and stick to this regimen and schedule, like this happens, you need to sleep this time. Yeah. Well, you know what? If he would give me the finger and said, "I'm not sleeping right now." You know what I mean? Like, So and from that, I guess also being able to manage your expectations too, because if I was sticking the schedule, I need to do this by this time, you need to be sleeping, and I had this plan at this time because you were supposed to be napping, and now that you're not napping, I have to change this around. And sometimes you have to be flexible with those things, and being able to pivot. And it took me a while too, especially because he's ever changing, to find those gaps in time. Like I know early in the morning and late at night is where I do my best work. Because I'm really not bothered. I'm not really worried. He's sleeping and mom's resting too. So that gives me peace of mind. But at the same time, back to sleep thing, I will have a tendency to, overdo it and neglect my sleep and then, push through with caffeine. So,
I can
so like a flexibility. I'm sorry, go ahead, Luis.
No, I can relate to what he's saying because it's true. I mean, you got to find those times where you could put in the most time to do what you need to do. Like you said, early in the mornings and at night, because I do the same thing.
Yeah, bro, like
mornings and at night as well.
Because what are you gonna do? Like, right? You get all your stuff ready, man. You get your stuff packed. You're ready to go. You're about to go to the post office, and one of your kids, for whatever reason, that day has a meltdown. You can't go.
Yep.
That in that moment you can't go because you got to take care of it.
Yeah.
And I say managing expectations because I don't want to be mad at my kid for for a schedule change that really he has no control over. It's just my expectations projected onto him, and because I was disappointed, now I'm mad at him or whoever, and whatever. It's easier just to be like, okay, swallow it, roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man, and I think that's probably the gift that you have. I'm sure for the both of you guys being your own boss. You guys are problem solvers. Constantly, I'm putting out fires every day. It's not a normal day if I'm not putting out a fire, right? So,
well, that or we're confronted with, like you said, it's like the antithesis of being flexible is what? You're going to be stiffened into like some little criteria where you've got a mental block. Let's talk about it from a mindful perspective. Like, oh, crud, I forgot I was supposed to go to the doctor appointment, this and that, oh no, and all of a sudden you got this emergency call coming up, or and so it's like you said, it's how do you remain flexible, but at the same time, there's this I call it the arduous balance, the question that Luis was asking you, as a father. It's like what is your juggling abilities like? It's like, can you ride that unicycle and juggle, and oh, by the way, can you do this and chew gum? And it's like so you're constantly kind of like confronting those things. And I'm curious, like wrap that all up with, imagine just take a simple 5 years where technology is going to be with Ezra, and you as a parent and your wife, you're going to be like, oh crud, when did they throw that monkey wrench in? I don't know how I'm going to balance that, new aspect. Of course you grow. You kind of got to like you said, you got to constantly be a problem solver. One thing I wanted to touch bases real quick. I don't know why I'm going back to that, but I love that you were talking about like with technology, how there's always these things that you're going to be confronting. I remember technology being kind of one of those issues like where you're confronted with stuff in life where you're always examples I'm trying to remember you gave a little while ago. But I remember one time where like somebody was really bullying the crud out of me, and we didn't have cell phones and this and that, to kind of go to. So I would go to my best friend David Nunes, and I'm like, dude. He's like, what? And he's like, what are you here for? I'm like, I just need to play your video game. I just remember kind of getting on there and like playing. What was the one where everybody's like, like fighting each other? It was like the ultimate like fighting battle one.
A Street Fighter.
Yeah, I remember getting on there just pretending to beat up this guy that was like bullying me. I'm just like, So you're kind of like constantly. I think us doing this arduous balance, we're constantly realizing, oh, this is me today. Here's my level of being is here. Here is my focus. Here's this. Like you said, you're looking at all this stuff and being on the screen, and you're also you said you consider yourself a part-time reseller. You're also like a dad. You're a husband. You got your past life experiences coming in, and you're trying to YouTube. That right there is. I mean, I'm fine. I'm new at this. I'm still wet behind my ears. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? It's like when I met Luis, I was just like, let me see my point here. I want you to be my co-host. You're legit. I see you're not going to BS around the bush. You're going to, and it's like, so like when you came to that point, maybe you can talk about it in terms of, the way you met Eric, the way you're just balancing out YouTube mixed in with your family, stuff like that in terms of your flexibility. Yeah. Where do you see yourself right now? What is your goals? Like maybe in 5 years with the YouTube stuff.
Well, so I kind of want to just like tie it to what Flipping Eric is asking.
Let's bring that back.
About how much do I value my time? And I'm also Victoria. I saw your question. I'm going to lump that into this answer as well. So basically, Eric brings up a good point of like, how much do I value my time per hour, right? Yeah. And am I seeing a return on investment, right? So YouTube is one of those tough ones, right? And you talk about juggling, and sometimes, man, you just have to be real with yourself and think things are unmanageable. I much rather do 3 things spectacularly than try and do 10 things crappy. Yep. Yeah. That's just me. I mean, look, even Jeff Bezos, right? Whatever you feel about him, he's a super rich dude. He only makes 3 important decisions a day. Freaking Mark Zuckerberg wears the same outfit every day, so that's one less decision he has to make.
He's got the Einstein effect, I call that.
Well, you're just trying to free up mental real estate because there are those times that you have to make big decisions, and that consumes a lot of energy. You know what I mean? And just the calculation that kind of goes with it. So for me, YouTube is one of those things where like I've had to kind of like pull back from a little bit because I value my family time. I value my time now. Anybody that I've ever talked to, or is in the chat with me, I'd be like, oh, make sure you take it all in. I'm sure that you guys will say that to me too. It goes by so fast. Well, I'm listening. Because I know that. I know I can't get that back. So, so why not?
Getting back, let's jump into also Victoria's question. Like, so,
right.
Do you see yourself in 5 years or whatever, 10? Like when your son's going to be like a preteen. Especially a preteen. Preteen's when to catch it. Maybe before that, like she's talking about. Speaking of tweens,
well, I think right. It's like a tool, right? And I think it kind of comes from. So it's not to be afraid of it. I see TikTok as like a tool, like a gun, right? And I think how a kid kind of learns about a gun is based on the culture and what they hear on it, right? So if I'm looking at this thing and I'm looking at it as a tool of destruction. That's what I'm going to teach them, that there's a whole negative connotation to it.
Perfect.
But
I got family in East Texas.
Yeah,
they're sincere about hunting. I mean, they're huntsmen. They come from a long line of huntsmen. Guns are to be respected, but you can be a very youngster. Like you can be a little above a toddler and still be able to handle a gun. They'll put you with the parents.
But you learn, right? You learn.
Like you said, there's those boundaries.
So that's why I see. You think about if it's a tool, right? So you're talking about guys who use guns for hunting. I see it as a potential for me to grow my business.
Yep.
Any of them, myself, my brand, right? We already know one person, right, who is very, very famous, just for their brand, their name. So, that's something to think about. That is unfortunately, that is your resume now. Whether or not you want to, let's say you want to start a YouTube, right? And you want to be considered as a guest, you want to get yourself out there.
Yeah.
But you really hadn't either, put the time in or given, let people know what you're all about. And that's what's tough,
Yeah.
And then when you start this stuff, right, for either you guys or anybody who's ever started, you start going through this little weird, like, mental space about, like, am I good enough to put my stuff out there? Will people like it?
Wow.
And you have to work through a lot of stuff. It's almost like, as bad as the anxiety of a guy trying to talk to a very beautiful woman for the first time. You know what I mean? Like this, like, failure to take action because of this, like, predisposed anxiety that I'm already going to fail.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you mentioned anxiety, because, like, it's a very real thing. And I'm hoping that, so Luis and I've talked about this too, and is like, what is this platform's intention for being here on YouTube? Are we just here to lollygag and just kind of hang out and, talk BS, or can we bring, like, reality to it? So, like, as resellers, we all are going to experience that. So, like, you're giving a good example, but let's bring it, let's funnel it a little bit tighter into,
so you think about, like,
merchants.
Right?
So,
so if it's like I'm saying, like, if you think of it as like a tool, so this goes all the way back to what you're asking me about how Eric and I got together, right?
Yeah.
Started like any other social media, man. Just,
by the way, thanks for dancing all these questions. There's a lot of thoughts going on.
Well, sharing my passion with folks, right? Sharing my passion with folks, connecting with community. That's why we're here, right? How lonely is it to be a reseller without social media, without bouncing ideas off of folks, and borrowing somebody's expertise for a little while, right? And so I think what's nice from social media, like, I got to meet Eric by accident. Like, I was talking to Midwest Bargains, Jacob, and he was like, "Hey, dude, you want to do a live show together?" He was the one that pulled Eric and I together. And we're like, okay. Eric and I literally probably talked about 30 minutes total before our very first, like, show. That's like how
whose show was that on again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that was Eric OBX Picker's show. So when we first,
you said somebody invited you to talk live. Oh, it was just him?
That was Jacob Midwest Bargains.
I'm sorry.
He tried to get the three of us to do it, and then after a little while, like, he had to go off and, like, do his own thing.
Sure.
And Eric and I for the last couple of months. But basically, that's what I see it as. It's community, and obviously you have to be careful what kind of communities you go in, because it's easy
community, but it's like you never know how, like, going into a community, how relationships tend to bloom. You know, you bump elbows, you do this. I even became good friends with people I've combated with over time. It's like I remember back in college, this one guy used to just antagonize the heck out of me, and I was like, okay, can I borrow your notes? I'm like, dude, you're always on me, you're chewing me up. And he's like, then we just had we sat down with a beer and it was all fine. He's like, okay, I hear you, I'll lay off of you, I won't pick on you so much. Like, it's not that you're picking. I said, that's just your personality, I get that, but I'm trying to figure out who you are. So, like, once you become a little acquainted with these people, YouTube is interesting. To me, it's kind of scary, and I'm sure I scared a few people when I first got here too. It's like, how do you figure out this place? How do you navigate? And it's like, you're it's a dance, but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to say things that offend people. You don't want to, the list goes on. But it's like, how do you, entertain things in a way where I thought, I'm going to put myself out there. In some ways, people don't know this about me, but there's an introvert part of me that does not want to be in front of the screen. So, like you said, when do you figure out what is it you want to do on YouTube? How are you, me, it's always about, what are you going to contribute? You've said it too, Sam. I know Luis has talked about this. Like, what do you have to give to be of service to somebody? That's like probably one of the more mindful approaches. You can learn more by giving away something, part of yourself, just being an ear for somebody. Maybe not advice, but you can suggest and help somebody. Like my best friend David, he's like, yeah, come in and play the video game. I'm like, thanks for being there, and it's like, you just kind of, I don't know, you touched a nerve, like, I love that you talk about this. You're very bold, And I think it's very giving of you, talking about being of service, to offer this, whoever's watching, especially new resellers. This can be a kind of a lonely game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, if we're gonna, I think that's my issue sometimes with social media, right? Everybody wants to show you the brightest, shiniest, prettiest part of the job, right? And promise you all these things. What they're not talking about is like how annoying it is when a buyer asks for a refund after you spent a tumultuous amount of time packaging this thing together. You know what I mean? Like, you put a lot of love into it, and it's like an English paper they work hard on, and you got a D. Like, dang it. What the heck happened? You know, it's those little things. And even just like, you know, negative feedback, not taking that kind of stuff personally. But, you know, having, you know, so tying back to social media, right? Like, why not talk about things? If we're going to talk about the good all the time, why not talk about the bad? Because if I want somebody's expertise on maybe a product that I'm comping out, or, you know, like a business potential, why not even, you know, consult them and ask for their advice when I'm going through a tough time? You know, what should I do about this customer that's difficult? I've never encountered this before. You know, how do you think I should handle this? Like, I'm feeling really upset right now. I'm not in control. Like, what would you say to this person? Am I being ridiculous or what? Because I see that, you know, like when I first joined some of the YouTube, the Facebook groups, like I thought some of it could be nasty, like almost like, I don't know, it's like really jerky. I feel like sometimes people get bullied in those chats. But then I do see, you know, the handful of people, smaller percentage of people who are helpful, that, you know, that are willing to kind of, you know, give their time and share their expertise and even comfort you sometimes if you're having a bad moment, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But like you said, you know, just having somebody to kick the soccer ball back and forth, you know, the metaphorical ball is like, you know, I got this. Well, have you done this, or have you thought about this? Or so you bring me to another question and talking about that, and you know, it's like I'm just going to jump right into that one. And I have my little notes down here. And it's like, you know, like who are the people that, you know, support us? You know, like in this, you know, not necessarily just YouTube, because although YouTube, it's not a deception, but we can easily think, oh my God, you know, those are the best of my friends, or those are people I really, but they become, in some cases, I love it when I see these unification videos where like people are like meeting and cross-pollinating and granted, like we talk about technology, we have to email people to communicate, because I can't reach Luis because he's 2 hours time difference for me. So, you know, I'm probably the first one up, and sometimes I'll be like, hey, have a productive day, dude. Let me know if you need something. Boom. You know, and just like, and then I got to wait, you know, when gets everything, you know, as a father, he's got to feed his kids, and this, he's like, he's like, oh, here's that information you wanted, or this or that, you know. So we're always wanting, you know, like, you know, we, like you said, we gravitate. So like, who are these people that support us in our life? But like in YouTube. So if we're talking about YouTube, or better yet, even like if we're resellers, we're all merchants. How do we, you know, for us, we kind of click in the YouTube community because that's where all our resellers gravitate. And some people they're not, but like-minded, you know, how do you get, you know, I guess, what am I asking? So it's like, you know, what is it you're asking? What do I need to grow? You know, what is it that I want, you know, to grow from being around them? You know, it's like, what is it? You know, how can I spend more time with those people? Because everybody's time's so pertinent and valuable. So you're always kind of back to the boundaries thing, whether it's technology, but you know, like I have to be mindful. Like sometimes I'll get a late email or a text from like Luis, and he's like, "You still up?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm getting ready for bed, man. I'm like way ahead of you." It's like I want to be there, and at the same time, like, "Oh, what's up, man? You know, we want to share something, you know." So, let alone, like you said, going back to the lonely thing, it was a bold question. I think it's a fair one. I think we should keep talking about it. I'm not talking about today necessarily, but if we do, let's beat the dead horse. But it's like, dude, you know, we get into mental blocks all the time. You know, mental health is so important. Like, oh, my wife's nagging me, or I don't want to do this, and the baby's been crying all day. YouTube, boom, video game, whatever it is, you know. And it's like, we don't want it to become an addiction, but we also want to be mindful to like, you know, where can we meet these people, and you know, how can I spend more time with them? But
hey, look, just know, you know, like it is a problem. It's a big enough problem, you know, mental health, that is our mental health, where people have effectively created an entire industry around it. We have
Yep.
professionals, like, you think how silly it is. You got to pay somebody to listen to you, right? What about cultivating those relationships instead, right? And I find that's probably where it's a lot harder. It's one of those things that's easier said than done. But yeah, man, especially when you're your own person, there's really nothing keeping you in check. Sometimes the platforms themselves can't, but you really are your own boss. Like, what are they going to do? Shut down your store? Like, besides that, like, what else? So, it's even if it's just somebody checking in, but hey, man, you're really off. Like, is everything okay? I've even heard, was it Daily Refinement talk about that? Where it's like, sometimes you're on pace to just like you're go, and maybe you're hyped up on caffeine, and now you're getting more irritable because of that, and aggressive. That's a side effect of caffeine, and you're just in a bad way, and that could resonate in how you're responding to people, even in your messages, and so your mood could be the difference of whether or not you even close a sale or salvage a bad one.
How about that? Your mood could also be how it affects you being able to hang around those people you want to hang around with.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Sam, how you doing? No, Louie, I'm not talking to you today. You've been weird all week, and it's like, you're driving me nuts. It's like, you're always being angry. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because like Daily Refinement, one of his key words in his description is, about, he doesn't use the word mindfulness, but it is about keeping sharp up here. It's about keeping that mind in check. So like, if we're to check on that, we need to, it's like, when do we do that healthy mental check every day? I don't care if somebody is inherently born with challenges that are, part of your chemistry in your body, or something you learn, which most cases more than not can be unlearned. That's the way I like to look at it. It's taken me years of spiritual, growth, and just really quandaries, and just I like to contemplate things. Let's hear from our good guy here, Luis. You got any input, man?
No, like I said, I mean, I agree with what Sam was saying. It's just sometimes you just got to deal with the punches. Sometimes you don't know how they're, what day the day's going to bring to you. We're going to have our good days, we're going to have our bad days, and we're just going to have those days that you're going to be like, what the heck just happened today?
Yeah. So let me flip it back on you guys. How do you guys view a bad day?
Nice. I have my own methods and my things, but I mean, Luis, did you want to go first, or?
No, go ahead. I'll go on after.
It just, that's interesting, because we've been using words, and I've kept, not just you, Sam, I'm just saying, I've heard other conversations, and let's just talk about live chats in general. Like, when we're on YouTube, we hear people talking about, oh, I got to, this is a bad thing, or it's this and that. And to me, I've learned in my life, at least probably 15 years ago, and I'm like, why do we have to always look at things as black and white strictly, like as if they're segregated? Like, I look at the symbol of the yin yang symbol. Those two are unified because it takes one to balance out the other. You have to, kind of constantly always be in a state of awareness. Being in a state of awareness is being mindful. That's what we do. So if you're going to be conscious about it, I'm going to ask, okay, like, for example, one thing I used, I think Emily mentioned was, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. There's this, I already forgot the method she had. It's like an acronym, and it's like whether you're hungry, angry, this or that, or it's like all these little. You remember that one, Sam?
I don't. I know of what you're talking about. So if anybody remembers that, feel free to put it in the chat.
You throw it up there. And by the way, we have Cajun Roots here. Johnny's in the house. Thank you guys.
Yeah, what's going on, Jeremy? Hope you guys.
Oh, hey, Jeremy. Well. Thanks for coming in, Jeremy. Appreciate you being here. And so, it's, for me, I guess, I do like to try to take a step back, but there are times where, so I belong to a community that is very much incorporated. It's not only about, but it incorporates a lot of mindful strategies, not necessarily techniques, but like more methods. And techniques are, more like kind of like along the Buddhist strategy, like you have to do this, to do this, to do this, but if you're being, mindful, it's like, just take a step back and make a non-critical observation. Wow, You just said something stupid. You put your foot in your mouth. Okay. And then you kind of step back and go, but like you do it non-critically. You don't say stupid. So like, what is the challenge inherent in that? That's a better way to put it, as opposed to that's a problem. It's never really a problem. People make just poor choices. People make, incredible statements that really could have been in the best interest if they just, took a moment to breathe and just say, do I really need to say that right now? Do I really even need to say anything right now? To me, silence is golden. When I'm with my family, believe it or not, you guys want to laugh. It's like, I'm the one who usually tries not to speak the most, like I'll sit back on the couch and love to watch the drama. I'll sit back and I'm like, oh, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm going to go upstairs and go to the bathroom. I'm out of here. I got to go to the store, and I avoiding isn't always a helpful thing, but do you have to entertain? Do you have to be involved and sucked into the tornado? So if you're looking internally and you got something that's eating you up, or like you're having a bad day, and like I will say, I don't have bouts of depression, but I've been in a state where probably about a month ago, I remember going, I think you're really depressed, and I'm just like, this is a deep, dark one. I haven't seen this in a long time, and then I realized, just simple observations, and it was like, it took a while to sit with it. And like Emily and I were talking about, how do you deal with it? You just sometimes have to sit with it, feel it in your gut. Do you have to sit in silence? I don't know. Do you need to, think it out before you go approach your best friend? Because they've heard the whole story before, like a broken record. Like, okay, Louie, you're on that route again, whatever. So I jump in anytime, Sam. I'm just kind of, I can ramble on this topic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you just touched on some important points. I want to give Louis a chance, but I mean, basically observing without judgment, I think that's the hardest thing for folks to do. And if you don't understand what that means, just think about how you react to stuff, are you referring, like if you had a bad day, do you call it a bad day or do you call it a challenging day?
Yeah.
Do you leave it? And then how do you manage it afterwards? Because like, there's never a good timing for bad things. That's just how it is. Like, it's just how you handle it.
You can. I mean, it can. But let's say, like you said, you're running and your brakes can't stop, whatever, in a situation. So, like, if it becomes so challenging, you went, oh, I went there. And it's now, you're like, I don't like to use this analogy, but like, it hit the fan, and it's like, now I got to, guess what? I get to clean, like you said, if you're looking at it in retrospect, guess who gets to clean that mess up? Nobody wants to deal with your tragedy, or whatever it is.
So, I mean, there was like this one time when I was in college and my family restaurant burnt to the ground. And I was I was in Michigan at the time. My parents were in Cape Cod, man. And I remember going back there, and it was horrific. Our entire livelihood was just burnt to the ground. And I remember walking by and picking stuff up, and it was hard, man. Like I had tears down my face and all that. And I remember there was a couple of kids that drove by. Ha ha! They yelled at me. And it hurt a lot, but at the end of the day, I just had to keep plowing through. It was hard, man. But it had to, I had to move forward. I could, at that point I was in college, and I had already met enough people who were stuck in town reliving the past, and if I would just, oh man, our restaurant was so great. If this didn't happen, and I got fixated on the fire, and not fixated on how do I salvage this and move forward. Because focusing on the problem isn't going to make me feel secure in getting fed.
What do you need to do to be in that present moment? Like when a tragedy, like such as something significant as, like you said, a major fire that's burnt down everything your parents did to build that thing back up.
So Johnny touched upon it, right? Control, the sense of control. Why do we, when our military gets learned the locus of control. Basically, if you understand what you're in control of and what you're not in control of, it's almost liberating. And the people who tend to be more depressed, more anxious, feel like their lives are out of control. I would feel super depressed if I felt like I was not in control of anything, right? And that's what I'm talking about. Like I don't have a time machine. I can't control stopping the fire, the restaurant burning down, but I can control how do we clean this up, salvage this, strategize, rebuild. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff that's happening now in the news, same thing. Everybody's like, oh man, it's tough. But You got to help hope. You got to put one foot in front of the other. Like I can't. Sometimes, like if I need my moment, right? If it's upsetting, like I guess being a man of science, like I know I need at least 20 minutes just to cool my jets.
Yeah.
It's just on average how long it takes for all those stress hormones to dissipate, right? But
it's just you're bringing this, because that's what I want to bring to the plate. Is it's not always just a psychological thing, being mindful. Sometimes it's like, what other parts of, and I know I put it, it sounds kind of cliche, but I put it in the body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
So your mind could be somewhat just like, it's about to go down. Like, how can you, like you said, take a physical moment to like just literally step back?
Yeah, well, and that's why I actually call it the H3 principle: your head, your heart, and your hands. Okay, so like in order for your head, gives you the idea. Your heart is what gives it energy. All right, but it's your hands. The action is what helps you follow it through. So you need all three to even just drive a car, right? So it's something to think about and ponder. Like,
I love that. That's super heavy, but beautiful. That's repeat that again. You call it
the H3 principles. So your head, heart, and hands.
Good. Yeah, it sounds similar to like practices. It's sometimes it's just a matter of like vocabulary and the way we term it. But it's like, and like one of the things too is like that my community talks about is we talk a lot about contemplation, and contemplating things. But there is a principle that goes beyond that goes, but you can think about it all you want, but until you put it into practice, like it's called contemplation and action. There was a monastic that I remember reading about. There was a contemporary. He just actually died like in the late 60s. He was a very devout friend to Thich Nhat Hanh, who I've heard you mention. Thich Nhat Hanh is another monastic, but from a different order, like of Buddhism. They were very good friends, and they were both contemplators. They were always thinking things through, but like in terms of like taking things, how do you do that? Like let's say you're so heated and I don't want to get into politics, but like if you got a societal issue, and Thich Nhat Hanh was actually he coached Martin Luther King, believe it or not. It's in history books. And so like he helped, he said, if you want to like find a resolution to a problem, if you will, or a challenge, take it to a different level. Like how can you see things in a new way? That's another approach you can do. Like how can you not only contemplate, but how can you like physically do this another way? And they said, well, do peaceful protest, get arrested, but like you don't have to be violent about it, So
it's definitely. It's like reframing stuff, Like I'd be nervous to fly, right? And instead of focusing on all the catastrophic things that could happen in that plane before I land, why not envision myself there, wherever my destination is, doing the thing that I was supposed to be there for, and envisioning it doing well? Why not? Why not be the director of my own mind? And I say that because a very good director can, force you to feel an emotion that they want you to feel. And instead of being forced to, why not I take control?
Force you, just like a director does. It kind of coaches you. Right. It can bring like all those tools and stuff that you bring up as a maturity and wisdom in your life, affords you, providing you are willing to take those on. Like, Luis is talking like as a parent, I have to be a principal right now. Mm-hmm. Now it's time to go back to being the parent. Sit down. No, back to homework. Now I got to be the teacher. This is how we, that's a great analogy.
Yeah. How about you, Luis? How about your bad days?
No, my bad days, it's the way I see them. I take, if I have a bad day, it's like, okay, what positive thing can I take out of this bad day to make it positive? Instead of just looking at it and just dwelling over it, it's like, okay, this just happened, so what's the positive end on this? So you just try to think the best positive way of it and learn from it, and just don't overthink it, and it just keep moving forward.
And it's dude, and I think that's huge. Don't
overthink it. It seems so simple, but it is true. Go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I was just saying that's perfect. Sometimes you just got to move forward. There's no time. Just sit there and dwell.
Well, as resellers, that's just it. Like you said, how do you, like you were talking about early, how flexible are you? How flexible are your time management skills? Are you a project manager where you can like juggle? Remember I joked with you before we met today. You're like, dude, where's the link? And I went, I just sent it to you, didn't I? I'm like, oh, that's what, and I jokingly told you, that's what I get for being in my project management mode. I'm trying to do this, this, and this. And I thought I sent you the link. No, and it's like constantly juggling is, it's another arduous thing. Like as resellers, I don't know, I guess, and I'm kind of bringing it up to like, have you found anything that served you? Let me say this like this. It doesn't have to be like a technical reseller, like, oh, there's this great app that helps me with, do you have any mantras in your life? Do you have any techniques or methodology that, even though you say you're only part-time, I know you're pushing hard. When it comes to reselling, we put in more time than we want to admit sometimes, And I think even your YouTube is part of your reseller,
Yeah.
ability of who you are.
So you're asking me like how I juggle it all?
Or no, well, actually, I was kind of like, what do you have to bring? Like, do you have anything, kind of different reseller? Like, do you have mantras that kind of like help you gear in terms of your focus? Do you have,
mantras? I mean, besides just like, the cheesy, like, you can do this. Honestly, there's like a mental hack that you can do. It's Mel Robbins wrote about it. She has a TED Talk called the 5-second rule. And basically what you can do, like during the times where, so actually let me dial back. This is from a woman who was an accomplished lawyer, radio host, who kind of lost, because of unfortunate circumstances, her house was about to be foreclosed. She became an alcoholic. She was not present for her 2 preteen children. Her marriage with her husband was in shambles, and she lived in New England in the winter time, so it was even harder to get out of bed.
I'm loving this story because it goes from, it's a simple hack, but imagine what she had to go through to get to this.
So you ever have those moments like, I really should do this, I should do this, and you spend almost, maybe to me sometimes I've spent an hour trying to pump myself up to go do something. You got this. You can do this. You got this. Come on. And then that subconscious brain of yours wants to protect you because it feels uncomfortable trying to do it. So you maybe go and take a cushion step. You go do something a little easier. Something you allow yourself to get distracted, which is fine. But at some point you still got to tackle that problem, right? So like in those times where I'm having a bad day and maybe I need to clean up a mess that I don't want to clean. I count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This lady had listened to a NASA like space rocket launch. She was in bed, and she's heard the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She sprung up out of bed. Was the way she told the story. And what she later on found is that by doing that, before doing something that you are uncomfortable doing, you actually trick your prefrontal cortex, which is the judge, this guy, the front of your brain, into not saying, you can't do this, you don't want to do this, it's easier just to stay in bed, why would you get out, it's freezing, have a drink, like it's been a hard day, just 1 or 2, you know what I mean? Like that voice in the back of your mind that is not
sometimes there's voices, sometimes like you realize, wow, there's like an argument going on, there's like a crowd in here, like don't do it, maybe you should do, no, it's like the devil and the angel analogy,
Dude, even just like the garbage, right? Like sometimes I'd be like, all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get off the couch and do it. Like, because it's probably the first time I got to sit down, chill out, and right as I sit down, honey, can you do this? But like, when am I gonna flip out on her? It needs to be done. So I just, take a deep breath, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go and get it done. Like, it is what it is.
Why don't you bring it out?
So other systems, I find ways to SAM-proof myself, where I'll design reward systems for myself. Like, like I've listed for so long, and I can watch YouTube for a half an hour or something like that.
I've always kind of gotten to semantics around that word treating, and it's like, I always go, I don't know where it comes from. It's my own, this is just me. I'm not trying to argue, but it's like, okay. And I think, maybe like, okay, Louie, what's your problem with the word? You get to treat, and it's probably a personal thing where like I wasn't afforded that, in the past. And I'm sure it comes from some damaged childhood trauma, like you don't deserve this, like, oh, it's one of those things. But it's like, we are privileged to do something. But are you also privileged to sit there on your butt and not do anything? I love that. So you giving that 5, 4, 3, get off your ass, go, get up and go do it. Can you afford to waste time, or can you be a little more sensible? And this is not criticism. It's not like harsh, like knocking on yourself, but you do have to be accountable, right? That's really what it's coming down to. Like, do you have an accountability board, Sam?
Yeah. I should redo it, but yeah, I put it on my. Well, because I just took it down to like try and add a couple of things.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But
all right now, 5, 4, 3, go do it.
Yeah. Well, it's well, also, I guess think of it. What motivates you then, right? If you don't want to think of it in terms of trading, what is it that will get you over the hump, right? Because you got to think it's for athletes. It's that championship game. It's the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get into that mindset, right? Because flow, that's what everybody wants, right? And if you haven't ever experienced it, it's awesome. When you hit that moment where nothing matters and you are a machine.
You're on fire,
right? How many people would kill for that, and how many people are still trying to study and understand that? So
that's a really imperative question. How many people could do that? I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it did come out this year. Was it HBO? Whoever did the thing on Michael Jordan? What was it called?
Last Dance.
Yeah, just hearing stuff that I knew about him, but to hear it come from his own mouth and then back up on this stuff, it's like, wow, this guy was he made chess playing look simple. Like, he was always like, oh, no, I'm going farther on this, and he always pushed.
All those guys, you know what I mean? There's that, to achieve greatness, you have to do some crazy stuff. You know what I mean? They
feed off each other. And I think we do that too here in YouTube, but that can be a dangerous thing, but it also could be a very encouraging thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it, and sometimes just and also recognizing your limitation too, as very far good. As sometimes it's just not within my ability to do that. I want to exhaust all possibilities, but at some point, is it a waste of time? So I don't even know.
Detecting those boundaries, it's like,
right.
Do I need to be there right now? Like, for me, I can't get my editing game on with YouTube. I'm having so many challenges and struggles, and it's like, okay, somebody goes, well, maybe you're a live guy, and I didn't want to hear that. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, just do lives for a while. I'm like, what the hell's that going to do? He's like, does it matter? You're not you're not at 1K. Hey there, here's Louie's daughter. the inherent challenges of being a dad.
Nah, it's all good, man. Well, and that's even some of these live streamers that the YouTube help contents, right? They'll talk about how they have to balance this stuff. Dude, if I listen to D Niman, Nick Niman's brother, I'd be a dumpster diving channel. He'd be like, dude, if that's what's working for you, do it. I'm like, I don't want to jump in a dumpster though. Right. And so it's also knowing what lengths you'll go to grow your.
What do you want to do? Like, so that was our question. It's like, what are my intentions for being here? Like I said, both as a reseller, do you like those guys always claim like, oh man, I'm not making a lot of money because I'm spending so much time on YouTube. Well, okay, where are your priorities?
Yeah.
It's like, do you need to go feed the baby, take the trash out, and go do? For me, I see it. I look in terms of my accountability board. Part of it is writing notes. It's like, where am I failing? In the sense that I don't mean like you're a failure, but like, where are things being challenged at? For me, it's householding. It's like, my daughter, she's now 18. She's out of the house most of the time, and I'll be lucky if I see her at all. It's like, all right, Dad, go wash your own dishes. Even though I cooked, I get to wash dishes too.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. So time management is kind of a weird play on that. But like, as a reseller, you need to constantly, and like you said, if you're your own boss, those are interesting ways of looking at it. Yeah.
Well, so like, what if I put a time limit on your YouTube?
Okay.
Like, for example, Louis, your first 4 years of YouTube is going to be miserable, and it's going to be so hard for you. But that 5th year, though,
Yeah.
That 5th year is where it's going to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
What would that change your perspective today about YouTube? If I put a time limit on it, like a college degree, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I went through college for a long time. I paid money to wait for the hope that I get a job that pays it back. You know what I mean? Like, so it's funny because I do hear people like, I'm not, it's hard investing a lot of time into it because I am not seeing pay, but that's not the point. Eric will tell you, hey, Eric, he just came in the stream.
Hey, Eric, let's say hi real quick. Do you mind?
Yeah, no problem.
We had What the Hell's in here. Our good friend Derek, Fundamentals of Side Hustling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful show on Wednesday. You guys go check him out. Westlake Gary in the house.
Gary.
Oh, I know this guy. He's a really good guy. You guys, clicking. By the way, we haven't given you wrenches. Just share the love with each other. And Nana, my other co-host, she is so superb. She wonderful. And OBX, thank you for coming out, man. Showing some love. We're gonna, by the way, you guys, in about a few weeks, we're gonna have Eric on here too. And you mentioned another person there, Sam. You're gonna be surprised. We locked him down, Christopher. Guess who is gonna be here?
Daily Refinement.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Nice. Very nice.
He's man. It was we did a little negotiating, and I'm like, we really think you would fit perfect in this, and we adore you. And then I went, I bowed down and just, how much do you need? So we're just, we really want this off to a great start. So thank you.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're having a great time talking about this. I know it's kind of random, off the cuff comments, it's ideas and things, but that's kind of what I love. It's like, how do you purge this stuff out and really kind of want to? Sometimes we're being redundant, but I think we need to do that sometimes as resellers, or just, as far as humanity goes, we got to be constantly reminding each other. And what are we want to talk about the nuggets, like you say. Sam goes, oh, like golden nugget, man, that's some, knowledge bombs going down. It is, and it's like, don't take it for granted. Like, this is a treasure trove here in YouTube. So,
yeah.
Thank you for coming out, Trish. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
so, let me check. Let me do a time check on this. We are right at an hour. Are you cool to hang out a little longer? Do you want to call
30 minutes out of me. You got 30 minutes.
Right. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And if if we just see Sam drift off, and it's like, we're just gonna say, say your goodbyes right now. So found for you today. He's been showing up and pretty new to the community, but I'm not that sure. But it says being burned out. I'm glad he mentioned that was a key word I wanted to mention. I don't know if we used that term yet today, but being burned out seems to be running through the community right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Sam? Do you think it is? And can I suggest? Do you think it has anything to do with 4Q, or is it just a seasonal thing? Do you think it's like you said, with our bodies?
So I honestly feel like it boils down to your passion and comparison and your self-worth. Those three things. And why do I feel like that? Because especially on YouTube, man, it's hard. Everybody's pushing for Q4. We're doing listing challenges. I got 50 listed today. How much you got listed? All right. Like, just hearing that, man, Eric got 48 listed 4 days in a row, and I got 4 this week. And it's like everybody's preparing for Q4, and I'm not. Like, what's happening? And I don't know other people's situations, but yeah, I think, it's those things where we start to compare ourselves to other people, maybe not feeling good enough, and then also not taking care of ourselves. Like, I find the times where I grow less passionate about things, where like I beat myself up because I compared myself and I'm not even in the same plane of existence as somebody. And then because I was pushing so hard for something that's not even realistic for me, now I'm tired. And all that energy I've invested doesn't feel that great because there's no like return on investment.
Sure.
It gets arduous, but I definitely think, when you're feeling those things, it's just a sign that your body's trying to tell you, like, yo, relax, take care of yourself for a little bit. It's okay. Have fun with it. Like, when I get burnt out, it's because I'm not passionate about something, because I'm not having fun with it. I'm being way too serious about it. So it's like, dude, what made you feel excited? What was the thing that hooked you into reselling the first time? What was that big buy, you know? So it's returning back to that honeymoon phase and just recapturing that. So one of the things that you can use is neuro-linguistic programming, an NLP technique that's called anchoring.
I'm familiar with that. That's some hardcore stuff. It's good.
So anchoring is just a state of mind, right? Go back to that moment, man, that big sale, that thing that sparked excitement in your heart. Sit with it, right? Have an object do something, right? So one of my cues, right, when I used to be anxious, so I have this Buddha that I wear around. And whenever I used to feel anxious about something, I would squeeze it. It would take me back to a time where I felt confident, where I felt 100% I was firing at all cylinders. I was 7 feet tall, made out of diamonds, and untouchable. That's how I would feel when I touch this thing, right? Close my eyes and I just revisit that and it brings me back. If you feel that, right, and you start putting that energy in there, it will anchor you. It will bring you back to
That's so awesome. Yeah,
so
that anchoring, I think, comes from other traditions too.
Yeah.
And that is there is like we can talk about this a little bit, but I want you to finish your train of thought on this. It's like one thing that comes to mind is Luis and I talk about, like, you know, I'll ask, you know, I'll try to remember to ask Luis. I don't always do it, but it's like, hey man, you know, what are you grateful for? But he doesn't even have, I don't even have to ask him. He's always telling me, man, this is what's even just in his, like, his storytelling of like, this is what happened to me today. You can hear it in his tone of voice. It's not that sigh, like you said, of the pressures and this and that. And the key word that I heard you say earlier at the beginning of the conversation, like expectations. We have all these expectations. That intensity that I think brings up this, you know, incredible amount of anxiety, especially for resellers, you know, let alone for parents and husbands and, you know, wives and, you know, anybody in like, we're living in the age of Rona, if you want to call it that, you know, and it's like, wow, add all that on top of it. Yeah. So gratitude, you want to go off on that, or you got any other ideas? You know, it's like, because gratitude is like, you know, how has that impacted your life as a YouTuber? You know, just a, you know, like, you know, it's like, you know, it's like you can do this. Somebody was it you or Eric or somebody was talking about, they were being interviewed and they were, he was just in here. eBay Addicts was asking somebody I didn't remember who it was. It was Buffalo Picker Tommy was being asked all these questions, and he said he snickered at first, but he went, "Wow, I was asked to re-evaluate back to my beginning stages," and he had this like little kid look, and I'm like, "What's going on, Tom?" And he's like, "It was good to revisit that." You know, it's like you were saying with that procedure. It's like, where did you start with this? What brought that enthusiasm? What was that? I call it gratitude, but what is it that was that passion? You know, I, as an artist, stopped doing art for 10 years, and, you know, I was like empty for a long time.
Yeah. Well, especially when you tie your identity to something, right? I used to see it all the time with athletes that had to give up their sport. Yeah. You imagine, you know, your identity, you have to give it up at the age of 25, 30.
By the way, you're in your prime. Recap on a career you used to have with respect to sports, because you're bringing that up a lot. I mean, you've talked about in other lives. I don't think you mentioned. Do you mind mentioning that?
So I'm an athletic trainer and a certified and a doctor of physical therapy. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I worked in collegiate and pro sports, so I see this all the time. And these guys, you know, in pro sports, they're getting some of the cutting edge, like, mental health training that, like, you know, we as a general public don't see until years later, because now it's gone mainstream. So but at the end of the day, man, like, I can't remember his name, but there's a French monk who, you know, he spent a lot of time teaching gratitude meditation, you know, and hands down, you know, when you sit down and you think about like 5 things that you're grateful for every day. No, I can't. It's like Matt. I can't remember his name, but he like recently had a talk a few years back. But anyways, at the end of the day, you know, I think it just comes back to, you know, having that gratitude, whatever that motivates you, whatever your carrot is, whatever drives you, learn that about yourself. You know, going all the way back, I talked about, you know, you asked me what systems I've used. I've spent the last 34 years of my life trying to figure out what my shortcomings are and trying to convert them into strengths. And if the ones that I can't, I try and compensate. Just like when, if I saw, a little kid who's born with a missing limb, it's not missing to them. They just learn how to figure out how to do it. Even the people who lose body parts later in life learn to adapt, and it's important, to kind of self-evaluate. You talk about that, right? Like, what was the first time and reconnecting with that? What if you had that in the back of your mind all the time? You'd be stoked every single time that you pick something up. Somebody asked me, Marrakech asked me, what did I learn from Pete, Craigslist Hunter, when I met him? Happiness. That was the first thing he said. Brian, Mr. Buys a Lot was there too. Happiness, lifestyle. Like, what are you even doing this for? Like, yo, if you're gonna bust your tail and not be happy, go get a 9-to-5 job. At least you get health care, you get benefits and vacation, bro. Like, like, why sweat it out? And I'm sure Chris Daily Refinement will tell you why. If you're not happy about it, why even do this? Yeah. It's silly. If you're better off with something guaranteed, and that's okay too. But I guess that's the important. Just knowing, when we talk about mindfulness, asking yourself those questions, like why? When we talk about upset, why? Be that annoying little kid. Why? Well, I'm having a bad day because this happened. Well, why do I feel that way? Well, because blah, 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 blah. And sometimes it's an endless thought process that you might not ever get to the end of. But along the way, I bet you'll learn a lot of like really interesting things about yourself, and that, just knowing who you are, like creating a user guide for this thing will help you kind of figure out how to navigate yourself in the future, right? Because how many of us like self-sabotage? We get right to the end to our goal, man, and then we just slip up. Right?
Well, we slip up. It's like you said, it's like we slip up. Well, slip up, lack of a better term, is a mistake or just an accident waiting to happen. Or sometimes you don't see those turnaround bends and you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but that's okay too. It's like, how many times can you get back up and this and that? And it's like, I think those monastics or whoever it is, and a lot of people don't know when I say monastics, it's a monk, and a monk is usually on the spiritual level, and I'm not talking about religion, but on the spiritual level, they are the more of the intellects of, like, when it comes to priests and preachers, they're the ones that dig deep, like in terms of learning about science, about technologies, learning why we want to do things in life, and so we cannot repeat it. And that's just it. Like, how are you learning every day, taking in and looking at things in a whole different perspective? Because the more you sit stagnant and you're like, oh God, things are so bad, you got to keep thinking that. Guess what's going to happen? You're not going to grow. As soon as you realize you're sitting in manure, good. That's good fodder for planting seeds. Go grow some roses. Get out of it, because you don't have to sit in that pile of dookie. And you can make fertilizer out of it. It's like, but I think gratitude to me is a sneaky little suspicion where I think monks did it on purpose. You know why? Because when you're sitting there thinking about gratitude, you're thinking about, I got a lot to learn from this. If you're open-minded, like you said with your 3H method, and it's like I like to call it open mind, open heart, and then pay attention to the other aspects, your intuition, your body, and it's like what can we do as resellers to kind of just keep striving in a way that's like beneficial in our best interests every day. I mean, I hope that a platform like this can eventually like bring a speaker to the right person at the right time that's re-listening to it, or in the live, or whatever it does, whatever it takes. We're all struggling in this, and everybody's on different levels, right?
Yeah. So I hope you guys don't mind me sharing like a personal story real quick, because it's kind of relevant. And it has to do with a relative of ours who was just checked out of a mental hospital, and she had been dealing with his gender, her role, where she fits in the gender spectrum, her sexual orientation. And there was a lot of pain in her not being able to express herself. And every day was a bad day. And it was very difficult for her to talk about it. And so the only way she expressed it was by cutting herself. By the time she checked into that hospital, she already had 250 cuts all across her body. She's very good at hiding it. And we're just very fortunate that she didn't decide to go deeper. And the reason why I talk about this is this is somebody, right, who is going through pain, and what I praise her for is her ability to ask for help and know that she was in a bad place. And this is a 12-year-old kid who doesn't really know a whole lot, and I say a lot of these things to him, and I try and accept and embrace. But that's to challenge her and help her grow, because there are other people out there that won't accept and embrace. There will be people who look at you, you pick up garbage and you sell that for a living. What the hell's the matter with you? There will be people who look down on you that, even like my family, it's like, dude, you're a doctor. Why are you doing all this stuff? I'm like, because being a doctor kind of sucked for a little while. I want to go do something fun for myself. You know what I mean? Like, but, and the thing I challenged her was, the path of life you're choosing is a very difficult one, and people are going to challenge you throughout the way. And, you have to be strong in your resolve. And that, and being strong means talking about your feelings and your emotions. So maybe, whoever's listening to this, if you're going through a hard time, somebody mentioned that there's a lot of burnout going through. If you don't alleviate that burnout, it will progress to depression. If you don't find a way to manage that, and if you don't find a way to manage yourself and do the things like meditate, prayer, read, silence, and what
you mentioned a really good one. I'm sorry to interject, Sam. Just be able to have somebody to reach out to,
right,
even if you're not that familiar with them. I think in the end result, you'll find that being able to reach out to somebody sometimes can. And not, obviously it sounds kind of corny, but like, yeah, it's your best interest. Well, no, but it's going to be, in everybody's best interest. Then you could find the right person to help you, because they don't know. Yeah. People are, I think in general, most people are kind-hearted and have full of compassion.
No doubt. And look, and the thing, how do I pierce through some of those negative sayings like ours? Like, I found some pretty cool stuff. That's what I did. I would share my passion. And every cool find that I would get and great sale that I would have was a big middle finger to all my haters. Not that I want to look at things that way, but, it's me being strong in my resolve and not letting people sway me too much.
Well, you have to also you have to get, I hate, it's like that, those terms always make me kind of wonder, like, oh, I got to be thick-skinned. You shouldn't have to be, but it's like working out in the field. You gotta, like, in order to grow something. Well, Luis, do you mind sharing that story? Like you said, one time there was, I don't know if it was a family member or a friend, and somebody like approached you on being a reseller once, and they said, "Oh, is that what you do?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind sharing it. I know I've shared that a few times, but yeah, I have a buddy of mine that used to resell, but his better half was never supportive of him doing what we were doing. And he would tag along with me sometimes when we went, to the thrift stores or, to go sourcing. And then one day I was waiting for him, and he never showed up and never called. So I went about my day until I finally went to his house just to make sure he was fine. And he told me, he came out and told me, I'm not going to be able to do this no more. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, I'm going to have to go back and look for a regular 9-to-5 job. I was like, well, I thought you were doing okay with the reselling. And then the wife came out and said, oh, there's your buddy. And then he goes, did you tell him that you're going to get a real fucking job now and stop selling people's trash? I mean, just like that. I mean, when she said that, I was like, wow, I was like, to me, it caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting it. But after, when I heard her say that, and, and then she told me, oh, yeah, make sure you take all his trash because I don't want all this trash here.
Dang.
Wow.
I was like, wow.
Well, and you probably, I mean, obviously it shocked you, Luis, but like, it shocked you because, it's hurting somebody you care about and love. It's your friend, like you're treating somebody with indignity like that,
Yeah.
Imagine like, from Sam's perspective with the story he told, you said this was a 12-year-old?
Yep.
Yeah. In my community, there's 2 or 3 children in our community that have already gone through that path. And I was like, wow. And, I got to speak to 2 of the parents and realize, this is a very sensitive situation. So I asked them, tell me about the journey. They're like, you would just not believe it how many people are so opinionated in a wrong way. Like, they're just condemning these children, They're condemning people for who they really are or want to be,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's him or her, you say them. Well, you know, just change the whatever it is, you know, the adjective or whatever. Not adjective. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, man, I can't even imagine what your friend is going through. And trust me, man, I started reselling. It wasn't like I wasn't met with resistance. I mean, because Christina, her ex, you know, he was a reseller, but he did all hype wear. So he was all about the big sneaker drops, Supreme. He flew to New York from Chicago one day just to source at the Supreme store in New York City. And then what happened was like every other reseller that quits, the death pile got too big. The debt was insurmountable. Now you're a collector. You were just a collector now. You're not even selling any of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that left a bad experience, you know, for her. And we had to have conversations about it. So that I would say, you know, if I was single, whatever, you know, but I talk about sharing my passion. And I did have those family members like, you're a doctor and do what now? Dude. And then I had now that was probably what, months ago. Now I have a conversation with, Uncle Irwin has been picking a lot of stuff. You should see his garage. He probably wants you to look at it so he heard you were reselling. He's been picking stuff up too. Oh, Sam, like, you want to go check out my mom? She's got all the stuff from my dad passing away. There's all the stuff in the house. You know, we're just in over our heads. Can you help us sell it? Oh, well, I thought you didn't care about what I did. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, by staying true to who I am, sharing my passion, it's like, yo, my sister, she's a girl. Well, obviously, she's a woman, and she did computer graphics, and this was like before, you know, where we are now. She started in 2004, you know, and like everybody, what are you going to do with that? How's that going to pay? You're a woman on computers. You're not going to make anything. Go get a business degree. She was temping, make textbooks. Oh my goodness. You spent 4 years of your life to make textbooks? Bro, you know where she is now? Apple.
Nice.
She is making ads for Apple. She just got poached last month. Gave her extra $30,000 a year, you know? And like, I know she's sitting up there. She's like, so you guys said I wasn't going to make any money off of this, right? But she persevered. Like, she stayed true. She like just pushed through all of those naysayers. She believed in herself, her passion, even when other people didn't. And as a woman in the tech industry, that's not easy to do.
Nope, it's sure not.
We're getting close. We're not quite there, but probably like about 5 minutes. So I think I want to be respectful of your time, Sam.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And really, more importantly, just thank you for a really enriching, you know, kind of just discussion and dialogue that we can just maybe not necessarily, you know, you, but like just everybody can continue these talks about important things, you know, because there's a lot of stuff we said. We kind of just jammed it in there, and I'm grateful to Sam for that, because he knows my personality enough now that he's like, okay, we'll do the dance. And it's like, it's, you know, but although the Houston reseller, I put it up on the screen, he's talking about opening up avenues of exposure. I think he was kind of talking about something else, but that's just it. I think we need to constantly just on our motivation boards, you know, keep these things and thoughts and, you know, in alignment. And remember, a lot of it we're doing ourselves, but also a lot of it we can do just, you know, kind of sharing our experiences, you know, just reaching out if you need a little bit of help. You know, you don't have to bug somebody all the time. Don't be afraid, but don't be butthurt if somebody can't help you, because everybody's busy and we're kind of like, we're all in the same boat.
And some people might not be capable of helping you, you know, and sometimes we get disappointed because we put that expectation onto folks. And I know some of these talks, like the mental health stuff, it's like, you know, it makes people feel uncomfortable inside. But my purpose, I feel like in this life, having gone through mental health problems myself, is to erase the stigma. I want to talk about it just as normally as like I would talk about a sprained ankle.
It's there. It's in our community. It's in society.
Right.
You know?
And, you know, I just think that like your mindset, man, like as much as you think, like how does my mental health, how could any of this stuff possibly impact my store? Just think about it. If you're burnt out, how good is your store doing right now?
Tell you what, it's not running smoothly. I guarantee you.
Right. So what
like you said with the analogy of the sports people, like, you know, it's like these new athletes, they're gladiators because, you know, in a modern day context, they're gladiators because they are taking things to a heightened new level. But it's because they need to take care of themselves. They needed a physical trainer to kind of go, hey, you're going to need to do all these things and do that. And by the way, are you motivated to do it? You know, are you in a mental capacity to really want to push yourself? And if not, get out of the game, which is okay too. But it's like, know where you are, ask questions all along, you know, have talks like this. And then, you know, I think it's just so enriching that you are able to be open. You have like one of the warmest hearts in our community, Sam.
Thanks,
you know,
man.
It's like kind of weird for dudes to be like talking, hey man, I love you, man. But no, you know, we have a high respect, and
Bro, I feel those things. You know, why not? Like, I honestly, you know, one last final man talk thing is like, everybody thinks that sharing your, and I've had to talk to, you know, my relative who just got out about this stuff. And one of the things that if you guys don't know what this is, it's called nonverbal communication, NVC. There's NYC NVC, I believe is the link. They do free courses every Monday. It's an introductory course, but everything that we do is based on feelings and needs, right? And if I feel a negative way, it's because I have a need that was unmet. And that's hard for people to articulate. And I would argue that by sharing my feelings and being vulnerable to you, I'm actually more brave than someone who's going to be stoic and keep it to themselves.
That's why it's what this platform is all about. Luis says everybody's welcome here. You know,
everybody's welcome.
Who it is. We're going to leave this platform open. We're going to cut it short here in a little bit. Any last, you know, thoughts or anything you guys want to bring to the table? We can. But we know Sam is a new dad, and he gets to put his full attention on, you know,
diaper time.
The loves of his life, and it's just like we are grateful. So speaking of gratitude, we just want to thank you, Sam, for being available, being open, and you know, you're super awesome, dude. I just you know, I can't thank you anymore, and I know Luis, he wants to give you a big hug right now.
Awesome, man. I'll give you an elbow bump through the
elbow bump. There you
go. I think we got everybody in the chat. If we forgot anything, you guys, thank you for participating. Really, this is about you in the live. It's about our YouTube community. My one thing I would like end on is like the more we collaborate like this, the more those connections have deeper, you know, rooted meanings, and I think it's going to help us all be able to just kind of move through whatever it is we're doing on a daily basis. It's like daily refinement, you know. Christopher says every day make little improvements. So,
bro,
Luis, what do you got to say, man?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging out with us. Make sure you guys subscribe to Sam's channel. Make sure you drop your link, Sam, so people can subscribe if they're not familiar with your channel. Of course, I know the majority of everybody in here already knows.
I may have put it down in the link below, but just in case I didn't, it wouldn't hurt to drop it. If not, I'll make sure it's on there, you guys. So if you have not subscribed to the Dapper Tiger, I always say the, but it's like Sam. Sam, you guys are missing out. You know, Eric likes to tease him. He doesn't put out, you know, videos a lot. You know what? When he does, there's some great stuff. He is of a different platform nature, but what he has to say, you can apply it to whatever it is you're doing in your daily, you know, use of being a good reseller. And Sam, take it away, man. We'll end it with you.
So
yeah, I mean, thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate all of you guys who are in the chat. Hit the thumbs up for these two cats if you hadn't. You know, definitely a heavy, big discussion, man. But if you guys need anything, you know, I'm sure these two gentlemen right here, myself included, and some of these fine people in the chat are more than welcome to hear you out if you're going through a hard time. Everybody goes through it, and that's okay.
If we don't know, we'll figure out somebody you can speak to.
That's it, man. Even if it's just the soundboard, that's all right, man. It's like, I think of it as a like having a poop, you know, and when you're constipated, it's just very uncomfortable. So, you know, I think you guys are doing a beautiful thing, you know. So, you know, I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope you guys keep trucking. I'm working on videos. I'm just slow going. But you can catch me every Friday evening with Eric OBX Picker on his channel.
Yep.
Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central time, 7 p.m. So, but I love
Great
you guys.
platform.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Definitely.
Wanted here. Take care. Peace.
All right. See you guys.